Good afternoon, Greater Philadelphia area. This is Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon. We both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line, the number one RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we have got a ton of real estate content to cover for you today, starting off with a wild week for mortgage news. This was the first really volatile week we've seen where things were going up and down all week in a long time, where rates ended the week, how to keep buyers and sellers on track with these rate conversations. And there was a little bit of a debate going on. This is I want to get your take on this, of who can explain mortgage rates better, Jerome Powell or Elon Musk. I don't know if you saw that press conference where it was kid was running around, but he actually did a pretty good job explaining it. We're also going to talk about the post-Super Bowl spring market. Real estate agents for longer than I've been selling real estate have said the spring market starts right after the Super Bowl, and we're going to discuss how agents can be prepared for that. And lastly, we've got Jill Goldman coming in with the company Organize to Live. Apparently, Sarah and I both need home organizers. We discussed before the show, so we're going to have her come on and talk about how she can help you and help sellers, because that's one of the most stressful things when it comes to selling your home is getting the property ready for the market. So if you get some value out of this, you like what you hear, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and if you want to schedule a call with our team and Sarah specifically about your real estate needs and how to navigate these rates, you can do that with the link in the comments. Let's start with the rates, right? So believe it or not, at the end of last week, we ended with the lowest mortgage rates since December 17th.
Wow.
Now, I think there was a Super Bowl bender going on in the city of Philadelphia and all that. I mean, we were talking about, it was kind of a wacky week last week.
It was, yeah. Last week was a weird week between the day after Monday being the day after the Super Bowl. Then there was some snow in there, and then the parade on Friday. It kind of, it made for a weird week.
Very weird week. I don't think anyone was working on Friday, or if you were, there wasn't a lot of other people working with you. So, now, we saw rates come down, so they came down to the lowest level since December 17th on Friday, but there was a lot of, positive and negative news. So I'm just going to walk you through what happened here, Sarah. You can give me your reaction to this. So Wednesday, we got the CPI data. So that's the Consumer Price Index, which came in hotter than anticipated, meaning higher, and it was ahead of the forecast. So the Consumer Price Index is basically what things cost, and it was at 4.4%, which was higher than anticipated, and that caused rates to jump up from 7.04 to 7.13%.
Okay.
Right? So people were all worried about inflation. Have you heard a lot of people talking about inflation? Do your clients mention this stuff, or are they just focused on finding houses?
I'd say they're more focused on finding houses. I would say it comes up more not in a necessarily house hunting way, but just even just in conversation with friends and different things, just how expensive it is to do anything.
It is very expensive to do things. I agree with that. I mean, the cost of eggs has been something that a lot of people have talked about. I don't eat a lot of eggs myself, so
I do. I eat a lot of eggs, and yeah.
I mean, I've seen $15 for a carton of eggs. Or
right.
It's
well, and I feel when you go into the grocery store, it's impossible. Even if you're going to pick up a few things, it's not like it's your big grocery shop. It's impossible to leave without spending at least $60.
I agree with that. I think, and that's where it really hits hard. I think when you go to the grocery store, gas prices have come down a little bit, but it's still expensive getting your gas tank filled up. So that's where I do think inflation hits a little harder. And then Thursday. So the PPI inflation report came out. That's the Producer Price Index, and that's another measure of inflation. And there was sentiment that the bond market would continue its upward trajectory, which sends rates higher. And the core components of PPI, which are pivotal for the Fed's inflation tracking, showed softening signs, especially in the personal consumption index, which is what people spend and how they consume goods. And we saw a drop in rates. And then we saw retail sales come out on Friday. And retail sales missed expectations pretty significantly, which caused rates to come down below 7. And I mean, I think all this is doing is just fueling demand. I mean, and it seems like now, I mean, I noticed, I don't know if you pay attention to Slack on the weekends that often. Mm-hmm. How many people were submitting contracts Friday, Saturday, not Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Like it seems like all of a sudden, like the lid got blown off the market here. And if rates do stay below 7, I've got a feeling it's going to be there's going to be more demand than a lot of people anticipated.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think we talk a lot about 7 being that line that tends to, when it goes over 7, people kind of pull back the reins a little bit. And when it drops under, even though they'll still say they would like it to be lower, obviously, that's where people tend to come out a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think that there's hope here that, and this is why we're going to talk about this Elon Musk and Jerome Powell debate, who explains this better, because if the economic data, it gets weaker, then the yield and the mortgage rates, the 10-year yield, they would go lower like they have the past 2 years. But people that want these lower rates in, like, let's say 5.75 or less, you need the labor market to break, and I don't see that happening anytime soon. So until we see, I mean, I don't want to see massive job. Do you want to see massive job loss?
No,
I don't think it's good for anybody. So my takeaway here with this is that it's really confusing, and all the more reason for agents to kind of just stay in tune where rates are coming in. I mean, So what do you do to stay updated? Because you're always on top of the market. But I know you're not like tracking like the 10-year yield and like all this data. What do you do to stay informed? Because I think this is really the advice for real estate agents and for consumers that they need to hear.
Honestly, where I go to the most, like if I'm not checking it if it's not like a week where things are changing, up, down, like multiple times throughout the week. We get, I get an email at the beginning of the week, and then like maybe on like Thursdays from a mortgage company that we work with that just has like a snapshot of where everything is at. So I will that's kind of my like what I always look at, just so I at least like twice a week am in touch with like where things are at. And then, if it is, if it's a week where things are moving, I'll just kind of like look it up.
Well, and I don't think it's that difficult, right? But a lot of agents don't even pay attention. And, and consumers, I mean, have you ever been shocked how little your clients are paying attention to rates, even when they're out like looking at houses?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of people, like they maybe got their pre-approval, and then until you actually get, have a house that you want to put an offer in at, they're not really, looking at it, which to some I think is kind of good. Like you don't want to be overly hyper-focused on that, on like a daily, like I don't think a consumer every day should be looking up where rates are at because it's going to drive you insane and you're not going to be able to perfectly time it. And you don't want that to impact if the right home comes up, not going for it because you're, predicting the market.
Yeah, well, I agree with that because I think it's, like news can be, if you consume too much news, I think it can actually like be bad for your mindset, right? And if you're looking for a house, that's stressful enough, let alone if you're worried about like, oh, well, rates went up today. I don't know if I can afford it. Rates went down. Well, if you're looking for a certain type of house, rates are going to affect your decision, sure. But most people shouldn't be looking at rates to make the decision because I find that those people don't make the right decisions.
Right.
They're trying to time the market, which I think you said on like the first episode of the show, it's like impossible to do.
Right.
And it becomes very challenging. So, and that's, why you want to have a good real estate agent as well that can kind of keep you informed about like, hey, did you see rates drop down? Or there's a couple houses here, maybe they dropped into your price point. But I don't think we're going to see that kind of climate like we have in the past where there's like a quarter point or a half point drop all of a sudden.
Right.
And Jerome Powell said the same thing. So, what other advice do you have for consumers to kind of keep a level head during all these news cycles that are out there? Because you're really good at keeping your people on an even keel and focusing on the big picture. Yeah.
But do you mean like specifically for rates or just for like all news?
All the above, however you want to answer this.
Yeah. I mean, I think I kind of try to, bring people back to real estate is local. So, a lot of the national stuff isn't really going to, it may or may not impact what's actually going on with us here. And kind of bringing it back to why are we looking for a house or why are you looking to move? And, we can't control a lot of the things that are out there. Like we can't. So let's control what we can control and take it from there.
For sure. And I think that's exactly what you want to look at here. So when you focus on what you can control, it makes things a lot easier. So now there's also the role of the agent that has to explain things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there was an interesting article that was put together. So I don't. Did you see this press conference last week with like Elon Musk in the Oval Office and it's like kids running around? And
No, I didn't see it.
It was kind of it was interesting. And I know that's a lot of people feel a lot of different ways about Doge and what's going on in the government. That's not what we're here to talk about. What we're talking about is who's explaining rates better, because if you can't explain this stuff to consumers in a way that they can understand, you're missing the mark as an agent, right? You start using all this real estate jargon, people get lost. So there was a question of who said it better. Was it Jerome Powell at his last monetary policy report to Congress, or was it Elon Musk at his press conference? So here's basically what Powell said, and Sarah, you can be the judge here. So he responded to a series of questions at the last monetary policy report and basically said, like, rates aren't going anywhere. And, he said things like the Federal Reserve does not control long-term interest rates. They're influenced by factors such as market expectations and federal deficits. And the Federal Reserve does not control housing supply, which is largely determined by zoning laws, construction costs, and local regulations. So, then there was all these like questions back and forth, right? So, that's what Jerome Powell said. Then, he's basically saying we've got a little bit of influence on rates, but the influence that we have is how the markets react to what they're doing. Now, yesterday, or this was last week, Elon Musk went on to in the Oval Office, basically went on to say, and I watched this a couple times. He said basically we got this $2 trillion deficit and it's unsustainable, which I don't think anyone should have a debt. Like, that's a lot. It's a big deficit, right? I think anybody looking at this understands that. Investors certainly do. And that's why the long-term rate is not desirable, because investors don't believe long-term on the trajectory that America is on financially. If you bring the $2 trillion deficit down, you might not, you have no inflation. And what you also have is lower long-term rates. So if you're hearing both of these, you want me to read them again to you?
Well, I'm just kind of thinking. I mean, I would say Elon's was more, it took some of the fluff out. Is that accurate? Probably.
It would, yeah. I do think it's accurate, because
do all countries have deficits?
That's a good question. So let's look up.
Because I kind of feel like it can't just be us, right?
Well, certainly there are. So let's see what comes up here. So, they have.
And I think what goes over it's such large numbers that, ever since I've been alive and can remember and hearing about the nation's deficit, it's such big numbers that it almost doesn't even compute with me.
Okay.
It's just so big.
Let's look at this chart. So this is from Statista. So this is a balanced data site. So the U.S. has their this is the highest trade balance deficit. The U.S. was by far the most. It's at 1.15 billion, and the next one was at that's 1.15 trillion. And then the next one was the UK at 270 billion, and it's not even close.
Now, this is going to probably be a really dumb question that
I don't think these are dumb, because most people don't know this stuff, Sarah.
Who do we owe them? Who does everybody owe the money to?
Well, and I think that's where it's based on taxes and imports and all these other things that happen. Now, if you look at country budget deficits, and this is a little different. The chart just disappeared. Here we go. So this is in 2022. The U.S. also had the largest, followed by the U.K., then Germany, France, Japan. So they owe a lot of money to China. I'm not going to I don't know this stuff as well as I should either. But the point is, we have a much larger deficit than most countries.
Yeah.
It's pretty substantial. So that's probably why rates are where they are. Now you got countries like Canada that have other financial challenges for different reasons. So I think the point is that if people are going to invest in the dollar or what the U.S. are doing, and they see this giant deficit, well, you got to keep paying that, right? And the pay, if you bought a house, let's bring it back to real estate terms. You buy a home in cash today, right?
Yes.
Say you pay $500,000 in cash, or you finance $400,000 of that and come up with $100,000 down. You're paying more long term, and I think that's what the problem is we're making all these debt payments.
Yeah,
and it's going up, right? You're paying more. So I think that's the challenge that we have here. And I guess that, the way it was explained, in my view, is that I thought it was a lot easier to understand the way Elon explained it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that you can fault Jerome Powell because he's an economist and this is what he does. And I think that confuses people in general when they go through it like that.
Cool idea to pay down the deficit, but how are you going to do it?
Well, I think the first thing they're doing is just eliminating a lot of this waste.
Them. Okay.
I mean, there's been, and good, bad, or otherwise, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with auditing and understanding what's going on here. So, but the point of all this is,
I think they should audit before making decisions.
Well, yeah, I mean that's and I think there's a lot of that happening right now. Where it's, I mean, some of the money getting spent was unfortunate. I think some people are really frustrated when we talk about the cost of groceries and these other that's what's really hitting home for a lot of people because it just costs more to live. So, you know, the core message of what Elon's saying and what Jerome Powell's saying is consistent. While the Fed's monetary policy influences the broader economy, long-term housing affordability challenges are beyond the Fed's control. Because there's people that got to move. You know, you've got to look at like all these zoning laws around here. I mean, it's very difficult to build in some townships. So that's the kind of stuff that we're dealing with here more than anything else. And what I would avoid, and I think this is really good way to wrap this up, I wouldn't get into all this stuff with clients. Like, can you imagine? Like, you do this every day and you're confused?
Yeah. Most
agents are probably more confused than you are.
Right.
I mean, we're looking at this stuff. We talk about it on a regular basis. We're on the radio show here. I would just talk about, hey, here's your payment. Here's what's going to cost you to close. Here's the projection for prices. Here's where rates are projected to go. And tell me more why you guys are doing this again. And just figure out if they're motivated or not. And if you keep it simple like that, I mean, because this can get very confusing. And I'm clear that the simpler and more clear you are, the better off you're going to be as an agent. And the better off the client's going to feel.
Right. And I mean, this explaining all of that back end stuff isn't going to help them.
It's not going to change what they're going to do anyway.
Anything.
If anything, there'll be people that say, okay, you're right. I'm going to transact now because I don't want to get into a low interest rate environment like we saw a couple years ago because then the market went on that hockey stick-like growth. So really it's can you explain the rates better than both these guys to your clients? That might be the best way to look at it. Hey, the only way rates go down is if something really bad happens.
Right.
Like that would be my script if I'm an agent right now.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. Don't get caught up in the rates, ladies and fellows. That's the best thing I can tell you here. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. Jill Goldman, our guest, is here. She runs Organized to Live. We'll talk with her in the third segment. You can check them out at Organized TOO Live. That's two like plural. So organized200live.com. But first, we're going to talk about how agents can get ready for the spring market and be prepared to take their unfair share of real estate sales next on Tool Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
For the best local mortgage service and great rates on your money, look no further than Mortgage America. We've been operating in the greater Philadelphia area for 40 years with a focus on smooth, easy access to home purchasing. Whether you're a first-time buyer, upsizing or downsizing, or just refinancing, we have programs for you. We also have closing cost assistance programs and access to subsidized interest rates. Pre-approval is free, no costs or commitments. To learn more, visit our website at mymortgageamerica.com or give us a call at 610-439-8000. We always have a person available to take your call with around-the-clock human service. Purchase your home with the personalized local service you find at Mortgage America.
Mortgage America is an equal housing lender. NMLS 128501.
Have you considered a career in real estate? Do you want control over your income? Whether you have a license or not, call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit TomToole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line.
I'm Tom Toole of the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line. If you're thinking of becoming a real estate agent in the greater Philly area, I have a special offer for you. Our team did $165 million of volume in 2021, making us the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania and a top 1% team nationally. Our agents love us because we offer them a successful career, a great life, and an unbeatable culture. Agents who've been with us for at least a year average 30-plus sales. Even our brand new agents average 17 to 24 sales a year. We offer proven systems and expert training. We help you set more appointments and sell more houses. Now here's the offer. If you don't have a real estate license yet, we offer real estate scholarships so you can get one for free. Check it out at realestatescholarshipprogram.com or visit the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line at tomtoole.com. That's tomtoole.com. Get more out of your real estate career, and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole.
When looking for a mortgage, you shouldn't have to sacrifice service to get a great rate. Visit the Sutera team at Cross Country Mortgage. We are your local Pennsylvania lending experts with loans that fit nearly any unique home buying situation, including first-time buyer options, low to no down payment options, and non-agency products. Get a free pre-approval now at ccm.com and search for us, the Suteras. That's S-U-T-E-R-A. At Cross Country Mortgage, when it's time to move, we're right behind you.
Equal housing opportunity, subject to credit approval, NMLS 3029, NMLS 1390366, MLSconsumeraccess.org.
All right. Welcome back to Tool Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon. We both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line, the number one RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we are talking about the spring market, this real estate agent thing they say. I don't necessarily agree with it, but you want to list your home right after the Super Bowl. Like, how many times have you heard people say that, Sarah?
Yeah. It kind of makes me laugh.
It does, because first of all, it's gotten moved back like a month since they started saying it. Used to be like mid-January, and now it's obviously, like President's Day weekend almost. So the reason we want to talk about this, and if you get some value out of this, you like what you hear, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to schedule a call about timing the market, although we know it's not a great idea to do that, and you want to talk to Sarah specifically, you can do that with the link in the comments. So, real estate's full of these things people say, and they just say them, and there's no data that backs them up. So, hey,
right.
List your home after the Super Bowl. So, now the flip side of that is we know that there is a time to make hay in the marketplace as a real estate agent, and historically, our firm and our team, we do 60% of our business is under contract by the end of June each year, from Jan 1st to June 30th. So, we're past the Super Bowl. Last week was kind of a wash, a lot of days off, a lot of fun stuff happening in the city, if that was what you're into. And now it's post-Super Bowl. So you've been through 5 of these, Sarah. This is going to be your 6th one. What advice do you have for agents who maybe are starting slow, they're on pace? Because, you're already 3/4 of the way through February now. The year's not so young anymore, and if you've got goals, you really got to think about what you need to do to hit them.
Yeah. So, I would say it's not too late. If you're behind, don't let that, yes, we are, we're into February. We're not at the first of the year. But if you're behind pace for your goals, don't throw out the year. There's still plenty of time to, make adjustments and, and try and get back on track. And I think kind of breaking it down to, if you look at it for I need this many deals for the rest of the year, that's overwhelming. But if you break it down into littler bites as to all right, what can I focus on now? What should I be doing? And just taking it one step at a time. I think that kind of keeps you moving and stops you from just being oh, I blew it.
Yeah, well, and I think that's a good way to look at it is you're never going to make up the year or 10 months or 9 months, because it's really, I'm going to say 9, because once you start closing stuff in December, the year's over. So you can't make up 9 months in a week or two.
Right.
But what you can do is all right, today's February 18th. What do I need to get done by March 31st? Start there, or even start, what do I got to get done this week? And when people chunk things down, it makes it a lot easier. What I would also be mindful of is having a conversation with your spouse or significant other. So I don't know if you've ever done this. Eric's probably old hat at it now because it's, you've been doing this long enough. But I'll sit down with my wife and I'm all right, where do I need to be these next 4 or 5 months? What are the things that I have to do? What kind of responsibilities do we have coming up with our kids? Where do I need to take them? Because there's a lot of time you want to allocate for work, so you can take vacation in the summer and maybe take a little more time off. But this is the busy season, right? It's no different than an athlete. They have their season where they play, and then they have the off season. So I don't know if you've ever done that with Eric, but I found that to be really helpful. Hey, the next couple months might be a little rough. We just got to communicate a lot. This is what's going on. I think because without a supportive spouse, I don't think you can be successful in the real estate industry.
Eric is very pro get to work, Sarah.
I've heard him on the phone talking to you when we've been but I know he is. But
he's never one of those people that's oh, you're working too much, or oh, you're going to too many appointments. He's get out there.
Well, I love that, but I mean, does that make it easier for you? Because most significant others are not like that.
Yeah. I mean, as long as I would say, like, as far as like evening weekend stuff goes, like as long as, he can watch Maddie, like usually it's just childcare stuff, but like otherwise, like, he's like, get to work.
Well, but I mean, so the mindset's there, but then you also have the other component, like you got kids to take care of, right? Like, I mean, I had to move some stuff around today because we had conflicting activity schedules, and our youngest daughter's 8. I can't like leave her at home. Like she's not gonna know how to get into the house. I mean, like off the bus. I mean, that'd be very irresponsible on my part, but so I think and we've seen people that don't have supportive significant others. Like you can kind of see it, like the tension's there.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work out.
Right.
I think spouses and significant others are like the unsung heroes of real estate. Mm-hmm. It is tough.
Yeah. Well, and they have to hear about our days every day.
Yeah. Yes. Or they hear me on the phone in the office, and and there's some tough conversations we got to have with people. So if you're in your first or second year, or maybe you've got a new relationship, I would have a conversation with that person and just let them know like what the next 4 or 5 months are going to be like. I think that's really important.
Well, and I think having the mindset and the attitude, both like letting your spouse or significant other know it, and then also for you mentally, try your best to have the mindset of like, yes, I want to take the appointment. Yes, I want to run out again. Yes, I want to go do another showing and another appointment. And like that, like just frame it that way in your head, because there will be days where like you think you're done and then you're not. And just know that like, I feel like you use that phrase about making hay or something a lot, but
availability is the best ability sometimes.
Right. Like just take it, do it. Try not to say no to it. I mean, obviously if you have something, then like don't take it. But if it's, as things come up, do your best to accommodate them, because if you don't, then either the house could be gone or the client could call somebody else.
You want to be a yes, right? I mean, I remember specifically, we had our second kid, Gina, and she was born in June. So the others were born in like January and October. That was by design, by the way. Like that's how much I take this planning seriously. And Bridget pulls into work. She worked at a hospital. Hey, I'm going into labor. Great. I had a listing appointment that day. They hired somebody else, and I said, I'm like. At that point, I was like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah,
like,
that's when you...
I took the L on that one. But,
gotta.
like, people don't care, I think, is the thing. They don't care how you're feeling.
Right.
They don't care if you're having a bad day or a good day.
Right.
And, the more appointments you go on, the more houses you're going to sell.
Right.
But there are some people, like, I need my me time. I need that, like, you're going to cap out on how much business you can actually do. And everyone's got a different bandwidth as well. But I do like the be a yes, like, be open to taking appointments, because sometimes you get your biggest break or your biggest appointment when you're just available.
Right.
Does that ever happen to you where it's like you didn't think it was going to go, like it was a last minute thing and it turned into something great?
Yeah. Yeah. And right. So I think, if you can at all accommodate it, like do it.
Yeah, I agree.
And just try and have the mindset of like, good, not like, oh, I've got to run out again, and yeah, I feel like that definitely makes a difference, like just shifting your mindset.
Well, and you talk about having a positive mindset, and you're very positive. Like I rarely see you in a bad mood, and this business has a lot of reasons to put people in bad moods.
Yeah.
But think about that negative energy you bring to the appointment. Like when you see someone with a negative attitude, can you see it like a mile away?
Oh yeah.
And that doesn't usually invite clients coming in, right?
Right.
You got to stay positive. So I think that's a really good point as well, Sarah. What about like a plan? Because I know like you've got a business plan, I've got a business plan. Successful agents have a business plan. Like, do you know like, hey, between now and July 4th, here's what I got to get done? Do you have like that number like ready to go or at least written down somewhere so you're constantly looking at it?
Yeah, and I have it printed out, and I have it in my in my work bag with me, and being able to just kind of like look at it and be like, all right, gotta keep going,
Well, it's a reminder, right? And I think if you don't have a plan, then you're waking up without a game plan. And when you wake up without a game plan, that leads to like paralysis or fear, or you just don't do anything. Next thing you know, you had like 5 coffee breaks. You talked about some Netflix show and you didn't get anything done all day. So, so you keep it with you and you have it printed out at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Does Eric have a copy? Have you told him?
No.
Is he like your accountability partner?
He would be holding me accountable. Yes. But actually, I don't know that. I don't think I like printed it out and gave it to him.
I didn't give it to Bridget either, so you're not alone there. But but you have it with you, right? Like it's there, and I think it without having. Here's what I need to get done from February 18th until July 4th or whatever time frame you're looking at, then you're missing an opportunity. I mean, we report numbers every day at our team. We've got a 15-minute meeting every day where every single department reports a number. That's what that huddle is that goes on in my office. I don't know if you ever noticed that. Like everyone just kind of comes over around like 10:30.
Yeah.
Karen reports new listings. She's our listing manager. Brian, our sales manager, reports sales. Wendy, our ops manager, reports reviews. And we all have a goal we're trying to hit for the week. And if you get into that habit as an agent, just like, hey, I got to go on 3 new appointments this week. I got to sell 1 house, whatever the numbers are, that's going to make it a lot easier for you. Mm-hmm. How are you organizing your pipeline right now? Because you've got, I would imagine, a bigger pipeline than you've ever had. I mean, just from working together with you on a regular basis, like how are you keeping that straight? Because this is another place people get lost.
So I have a list of all of my, which initially it was one that was like on an Excel sheet and then I print it out. But then I just hand write on it.
I do the same.
Of kind of like hot prospects, people that I really think I don't have a timeline necessarily associated with it. It's not like, these people I will be able to get under contract within 90 days. Some of them I know are longer term ones. Some of them I know are ones that like if the right home came up, they would buy and then they would sell, but they're not in any type of like particular rush. But I have them all written down on a sheet that I can just kind of like look back at and make sure that there's nobody that I've like forgotten about, you know? And then with them being in like different levels of where they are in the timeline. And then I would say a decent amount of them when they are like sphere or, so I have different ways of kind of checking in with them and touching base. And it's not necessarily like, once a week is when I reach out to all these people because some of them, that would be way too much.
Well, what I love that you said there is there's hot prospects on there that might buy the right home, but it could be today. It could be a year from now. Yeah. And a lot of people don't get that. And that's where you can really stack transactions because there's so many folks that they're looking for a very specific property and they're already in a home. This is a lot of home buyers and home sellers right now. And if you forget about them, then they go call the listing agent or they go in with somebody else who's available when they want to see it. So that top of mind prospecting is the right way to go because someone can be hot but not necessarily like have a schedule where they need to hit the transaction.
Right. Yeah. Well, one of them, my cousin's wife, I'd gotten them into a house and then we were helping them move something and her dad came over and was like, oh, so like you're the real estate agent, blah, 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 and kind of started talking to me. And after, I got some info from him, I was like, yep, we'll touch base. And then Kelly was like, just so you know, they've been looking for a house for 20 years. And I was like, that's fine. Like, I'll stick with them. And
I love that.
I don't care if it's like this year or in 10 years. Like, I'll still be here and I'll still, and it's just and we have like gone out and looked at homes. And it's just like when the right one comes up and the timing and everything is right for them, great. But that's not something you can rush. And it's not something that you want to push. It's just kind of staying in touch. And so I've got people like kind of like that. And then others that you need to be a little bit more in constant communication with.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, we have a listing coming to the market and a client you're working with now. I met the person 15 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. And then we walked in, and what was on the countertop there?
Oh yeah, you're like
postcards. Yeah, the mailers from the team, and it's like, okay, yeah, that was a long time, and it was a relatively easy conversion and an easy appointment because the trust was already built.
Right.
So if you want to have, I don't want to say any transaction in real estate is easy because that's, I mean, some are, but usually not.
Right.
There's always they all got different challenges. If you want to have easier conversations for people to work with you, play the long game.
Yeah.
And while while we're talking about planning the spring here, and I'd be looking at how many appointments you're going on a week, how many you got to go on a month, how many sales you want to hit. I mean, just chunk it down in that weekly, monthly, quarterly goal. Mm-hmm. The flip side of that is you got to play the long game in this business because most agents won't even be here All you
Right.
got to do is outlast 87% of them and be in the business 5 years. Congratulations again, Sarah, on being part of Club 13.
Woohoo.
And you're going to be there. And I think that's the thing a lot of people don't get. They want these now sales. And anytime you're trying to find the now business, you're doing stuff that's not going to be healthy for your business long term.
Right.
Anything else you want to add for the post Super Bowl push here before we have Jill come on?
I don't think so.
So what I'll leave with is if you don't have a plan, you can start today. Figure out how many homes you want to sell. Look at the seasonal flow of your market. And I would just start with talking to 15 people a day, 5 of them you know, 5 of them you don't know, and 5 follow-ups. And try to go on at least 2 appointments a week. Just start with that. And I'm talking like 2 new people, not like the person Sarah's been working with that's been looking for a home for 20 years, taking them out again. You got to meet new people consistently because appointments are the currency of the business here, and that's the closest to the dollar activity is talking to people, setting appointments, and going on appointments. And if you know how to run the appointment and you find out if people are motivated or not, usually the transactions can kind of flow, but you got to work on those skills first. So, but availability is the best ability. I love that one, Sarah, and I love that you brought that to the table along with your positive Pete mindset. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back, and we're going to talk with Jill Goldman from Organize to Live. It's organizetoolive.com is where you can get in touch with her. Next on Tool Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
You shouldn't have to deal with all the red tape when getting your mortgage from a big or online bank. At Mortgage America, we have access to big bank money, but with the personalized and detailed service of a local bank. We are here in your community and ready to serve with fast settlements, low down payment options, and first-time homebuyer programs. Pre-approval is free, no costs or commitments. For more information, visit our website at mymortgageamerica.com or give us a call at 610-439-8000.
Mortgage America's Equal Housing Lender. NMLS 128501.
Have you considered a career in real estate? Do you want control over your income? Whether you have a license or not, call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit TomToole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line.
The Tom Toole Sales Group is the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania with over $165 million in volume for 2021. I'm Tom Toole, and our team has achieved that kind of success by being a great place to work with and to work for. No one knows Greater Philly better than we do. We know real estate, but more importantly, we're real people. We hire the best agents, and we give them all the tools to succeed. Even our brand new agents sell 17 to 24 homes a year because our team delivers the best experience in real estate. Teams deliver a better experience than individuals, and we're a top 1% real estate team in the country. We call it AAA service. We're your advocate, ally, and advisor. Because this isn't a transaction to us. It's a relationship. If you're buying or selling a home, call the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line at 610-692-6976 or visit TomToole.com. That's TomToole.com. Sell your home for more, and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole.
When looking for a mortgage, you shouldn't have to sacrifice service to get a great rate. Visit the Sutera team at Cross Country Mortgage. We are your local Pennsylvania lending experts with loans that fit nearly any unique home buying situation, including first-time buyer options, low to no down payment options, and non-agency products. Get a free pre-approval now at ccm.com and search for us, the Suteras. That's Sutera at Cross Country Mortgage. When it's time to move, we're right behind you.
Equal housing opportunity, subject to credit approval, NMLS 3029, NMLS 1390366, MLSconsumeraccess.org.
Welcome back to Tool Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon, and we've got Jill Goodman here from OrganizeToLive.com. That's TOOLive.com. And if you get some value out of this, you like what you hear, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to schedule a call with our team and Sarah specifically, you can do that with the link in the comments. So we got Jill Goldman here. Jill, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Again, you can get in touch with Jill at organize2live.com. So, Jill, tell us about your company, first and foremost. I think that's a great place to start here.
I have been organizing for almost 20 years, just working with great families. I started off working with special needs kids, getting their rooms together, more organized so they can get themselves dressed. And then I moved down into the kitchen so they can get their cups, their spoons, their bowls, and everything for themselves. And then moms just would come into a mom's house and say, I love your kitchen. It's so organized. Who did it? And then I started working from there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's pretty incredible.
it is. I love what I do. I love helping people. I work with a lot of seniors that are ready to move from their homes 30, 40, 50 years and move to retirement communities. And just, it's personalized so they feel comfortable. They don't feel stressed. They don't feel any anxiety. I take my time with them. I can go as fast as they want or as slow as they want.
Okay.
Very cool. Well, and the reason I'm excited to have you on here is, and Sarah, you've been through this too. I think one of the biggest stressors for sellers is like getting their home ready for sale. 51% of sellers, they worry about getting the home ready, making improvements, making sure it's market ready, being available for showing. So talk a little bit about like what you do, because I like we could probably both use this at our homes. I think we talked about
yeah.
So explain what kind of service you have available, what areas you cover, because I think that would be pretty helpful.
I cover Montgomery County, Bucks County, Philadelphia County.
Awesome.
I've gone to Delaware. I can go into New Jersey. I have a lot of clients in New Jersey. I'm just going to come in, take a look at everything you have, and then sit down with you and see what's valuable to you, what's important to you, what you want to keep. We can do an estate sale and sell some things. We can donate lots of things and things that just aren't usable. The junk guys can come and get those. But I use everything I can and I donate everything I can. I don't like to throw anything away. And with getting a home ready to stage, I try to use everything the client has. We'll take some things out, anything personal.
Sure.
Because when people come in, they want to see themselves in the home. They
Sure.
don't want to see the family that lives there.
Yeah.
And they love that.
Yeah.
So it's like one less thing off their box checked off. They don't have to worry about having somebody come in that they have to pay a lot of money to. If I can help them do it, I do it.
Yeah. I guess how far out, like what does for your schedule? If we were to, meet somebody that could use your help, are you like 2 weeks out or
Yeah,
like, is
2
that?
weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm very flexible.
Okay.
I have a couple of girls that work with me when I have bigger jobs.
Yeah.
And we just try to make everything happy for everybody.
Yeah. And then I'm guessing probably like the first thing that most people say is just like, I'm so embarrassed.
Yeah. And you know what I mean? Everybody's got the junk drawers and the
yeah.
junk basement or the
Yeah.
junk garage. We all do, even myself.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's a normal thing. And
Yeah.
then once I'm there and they feel comfortable and they're like, okay, you're nice. Like, I'm like, this is what it's going to be the whole time.
Yeah.
Then they kind of relax a little bit and then they start getting, into it a little bit. And they're like,
Sure.
okay, well, let's do this room next. Or I just worked with a husband and wife and they're in their 70s and she could never get her husband to clean out his clothes closet. And so that first day I came in and I said, let's start with your closet. Let's just see what we can donate.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned all these catastrophes that have happened in the area.
Yeah.
California. I said, there are people that need clothes that have nothing.
Yeah.
And as he's just whipping things out and throwing them out of the closet,
Yeah.
she's looking at me like mouthing, oh my God.
Yeah.
How did you do this? You're
Yeah.
so good at what you do. Like he would never give 2 shirts to me.
Right.
And I said, this is what I do. This
Yeah.
is, if you're comfortable with the person you're working with, then you do a little bit more.
Yeah.
And that's just how I work.
Awesome.
And I enjoy it. I
Yeah.
get happy when people are so happy.
Yeah.
It makes me happy. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
I think this is like a sensitive subject for a lot of people too, especially if they're living there. Like it's one thing when we come in and we're getting home ready for the market, but I mean, I think it's tough. Some people they just don't feel comfortable with you coming into their home. So I mean, empathy and that stuff goes a long way. You got on your website here. It talks about serving with purpose, and you have a lot of different services that you offer. You want to talk about that a little bit because I think that's pretty helpful because people hear home organizing and I think they might put you in like a single category.
Right. So again, I help people move, help people get organized in different rooms of their house. A lot of moms, if they're getting ready to have kids, I can get the baby's room set up. There's families that a senior parent is going to move in. Some families build an extra spot onto their house, and then I come in and I help them furnish it. I get it all set up. I can have a carpenter come in and build, custom closet. So I try to do a little bit of everything that everybody needs. And again, I just love the service business. That's just who I am. And so I just try to work with everybody with whatever they need. I have a great painter if they need something painted. Again, my carpenter, I have great movers. Again, I just worked with a client. She was moving, needed a piano taken to her cousin's house. I said, I've got the great mover for you.
Yeah.
He did it. She's like, I loved this guy. He was just the nicest guy. And I felt like he didn't rip me off.
Right.
Just moving a piano.
Right.
She said, you know what? I have a treadmill. Can he get that to my sons too? And I said, absolutely.
Yeah.
So if I can give all these other people to them, that makes it a little bit easier. And it helps you guys because then everything gets out of the house. That's, you know what I mean? It's a win-win for both of us.
When I guess like, so, you know, the first thought here is like, oh, decluttering and like getting organized here to like move. But do you have many clients who maybe move into a new house and just have no idea how to set it up or how to like do it? And it's like, hey, it's a blank slate. Can you like, where do I hang a picture? Where do I?
Yeah, absolutely. Some clients, I work on both ends. I pack them up and help them move, and then I set them up in their new house. Some people are newly married, newlyweds, and somebody will hear about me, and I'll go over and I'll meet them, and I'll just go shopping with them.
Yeah.
We'll go to, whatever their budget is.
Yeah.
We can go to an Ashley Furniture or Raymore and Flanagan. We can go into Manayunk and to a couple great places there. And we kind of work together on what their style is, a little bit of what the wife likes, a little bit of what the husband likes. We can choose plants, flowers, kitchenware, everything. And as long as they're connecting together and they're communicating well, we can really make a beautiful home together.
Pretty incredible because I think a lot of people, they don't realize like how to get set up. So who would you describe as like your ideal client? Like if someone's listening right now, you've got 20 years of experience. Again, you can get in touch with Jill at organizedtoolive.com. You got a lot of solutions here. I mean, what kind of people do you think would be in need of your services right now?
Definitely clients with kids.
Okay.
I do a lot of refreshers for a lot of clients. I've had some clients for 15 years, and every 4 or 5 months I come in and I do a refresher. I love working with seniors. They're so appreciative, and it just makes me feel really great doing that. I work with a lot of divorced women lately, and people that are splitting up. And so these women need somebody in their corner to just pump them up and say, yep, we can get this done. Let's get all your clothes. Let's get, you know what I mean? You've already found a place. You had a great realtor doing that. Let's get you set up and move you in and make you feel like you have a beautiful home again.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that going on right now with a lot of people separating and single girls and guys that just need a little bit of help that just, don't know how to do things like that.
Yeah.
That's great advice. So what do you think the biggest problem is? Like people are afraid to get their house organized. I mean, I think time's obviously one of them, but what do you see as like the biggest stressor for people when they call you?
I think it's the money. They have no idea what it's going to cost.
Yeah.
And I think that's a barrier for some people.
Sure.
I'm very flexible. I mean, I have my amounts, but I have some clients that are like, I can't afford $80 an hour or whatever it is. And then I say to them, well, what can you afford?
Yeah.
And this is a divorced mom.
Yeah.
And she said, the most I could do is about $50.
Yeah.
I said, okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So are you
It's
usually-
about doing it, not
Oh, yeah.
always about, you know what I mean? Because it is personalized.
Yeah.
And so I've been working with this lady for 7 months. I go twice a month because that's what she can afford.
Yep.
And sometimes when I'm cleaning out another client's house that something's just going to go to donation, I'll say to them, can I grab this chair?
Yeah.
And I'll bring it to her. I just did that with an office chair because she didn't have one and she really can't afford it.
Yeah.
So I brought her an office chair so now she could sit at her desk.
Yeah.
That, you know what I mean? That just makes me happy.
Yeah.
I love it. I love what I do.
I was going to ask, so is pricing, is it by the hour, by the job, or is it kind of, it sounds like maybe tailored for...
It's tailored. It floats both ways.
Yeah.
Some people are like, I can only work 3 hours 2 times a month.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So they like the hourly rate. Some people, they need their whole house packed up.
Yeah.
So then we could sit down and say, it's going to be $2,500 to do this whole house, 5 bedrooms. I mean, big giant house. And they're like, great. But a lot of people are afraid. They just don't know where to start. They're afraid to even talk. And then once they do, they're like, wow, okay, we can do this. Let's do it.
Well, I think that I mean the fact that you're willing to go to those lengths, like I know Sarah's done that in her business. I've done that stuff in my business where it's like that's not part of the job description, but you do it anyway. Like picking up clients, like going to, help them. Like, hey, I'll take the trash out for you, that sort of thing. That says a lot about you as a person, and I mean, I would imagine your clients probably feel that when you're meeting with them because this is like an intimate thing. Like you're going into their home. You're moving stuff around. Like, I don't know how you would feel about it. It sounds like you'd be pretty excited about it. But
somebody came in and was like, let me help you
organize? I can tell you my wife
pumped.
would not be excited. Like, I mean, that's a big fear. I don't want anyone else coming into the house. Do you ever run into that a lot?
A lot more for the men than the women.
Yeah.
And, there's certain areas that I just don't go into.
Yeah.
So they don't feel uncomfortable. Some
Yeah.
of them are like, just don't go into my office. There's the man cave kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And that's fine. It's all about making people feel comfortable.
Sure.
And if they don't feel comfortable, then they're not going to do it.
Right.
And then they're going to it's going to be harder for the realtor to get things done because there's still so much stuff in the house.
Yeah.
Very good stuff here, Jill. So you want to get in touch with Jill. It's Organized TOO, organized2live.com. Thanks for coming on. Sounds like a service a lot of people could use. Otherwise, we'll be back. You can follow Jill on Instagram at organized2live. Just like I spelled it. You can follow Sarah. She's at Ty_Ty_Time. You can follow me at TomToole3RD. And that's it for this week's episode. We'll be back next week on Tool Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.